Hey gang, Mark Sweeney here from Austin Dental Spa in beautiful, hot Austin, Texas. We survived the hurricane last week. It took a right and turned east and missed us. We didn't get rain within 50 miles of here, but it was a little scary over the weekend thinking it was heading right our direction. We're far enough inland, we would have just gotten a lot of rain, but we didn't even get that. So the coast, some areas in Houston still out of power. I think there's like 2 million people that still don't have power, including my poor daughter who lives in Galveston, right north of where it hit. And they got a lot of rain. She got some damage to her rooftop, but no major damage. And so everybody is safe down there. And so if you've tuned in before, you know what this is all about. On Wisdom Wednesday, we talk about usually at least one scientific paper. There's always new research coming out that either applies directly to dentistry or applies to just your whole body's health in general. We cover both those topics. I always give a health tip at the end, and we try to have a little fun with it too. Today is no different. I have, man, talk about hot off the presses. This just got published July 3rd, last week, out of San Francisco, and it's a little unfortunate that decisions we make in our 20s and 30s can have far-reaching implications later in life. And we're going to talk about whether decisions that you made in your 20s and 30s about your lifestyle can affect your cognitive abilities when you get older. But before we do that, I want to hit on, every month we have a theme, so to speak, and our theme for the month of July is Fly High in July, which happens to rhyme. I want to thank everybody in June last month who voted in the second round of the Community Choice Awards, which used to be called Best of Austin Awards, and they changed it 2 years ago to Community Choice Awards. We were up for nominations in 2 dental categories, in Best Dentist and Best Cosmetic Dentist, and we were just notified yesterday that thanks to your voting on a daily basis, the last round, we're in the top 3 in both dental categories. Nobody else in the event is in both categories. Just to let you know, for the last 7 years that they've had this contest, we've been in both categories, the top 3 every year. And twice we've won both categories. Every year we've won at least one. So we're in both again this year. There's no more rounds of voting. There is another round of marketing opportunity, as they call it. But anyway, thank you all who took the time to vote and support us in this gesture, because we'll be at the gala in September where they will announce they're down to the top 3, and then they sell tables and have a big party and announce the winners. So hopefully this is an indicator that we'll come home with at least one, if not both, of the trophies. So thank you again. Now, let's talk about this choices you make in your 20s and 30s affecting you down the road. And we've known, they've shown, there have been previous studies that have shown that chronic inflammation can affect your cognitive abilities in older people, in their 60s, 70s. But University of San Francisco, University of California at San Francisco just came out with this new study. It was published in, I had it written down here, the Journal of Neurology. Journal of Neurology, it just came out July 3rd, this published article. And what the UCF study, it's got a couple of fascinating aspects to it. Number one, it links inflammation caused by obesity, lack of physical activity, chronic illness, stress, and smoking to reduce brain function later in life. Now, these are things people were doing. This study was pretty amazing. They studied 2,364 adults starting between age 18 and to 30. That was their target group. And they followed them for an astounding 18 years. Can you imagine this? I mean, they checked their C-reactive protein, which is the easiest way to check for chronic inflammation in your body. It's a simple blood test, and it gives you a number. And above that number, you've got some kind of chronic inflammation going on in your body. Below that number, you're okay. But they studied these people for 18 years. And so the conclusions they came up with are pretty astounding. People with higher levels of inflammation that chronically over this 18-year period perform more poorly on speed and memory tests. So that ought to get your attention right there. Next, the higher levels of inflammation were also a link with physical inactivity, higher body mass index, and smoking. Again, so if there ever was a reason to really consider stopping smoking, aside from higher incidence of oral cancer, possibility of lung disease or lung cancer, this one is it. The lead doctor in the study said, inflammation plays a significant role in cognitive aging and may begin in early adulthood, but it's not as noticeable in early adulthood. So there are things that you could have done in your 20s and 30s that may be affecting you now. So enough of the bad news. Let's go to, okay, what can you do about it? Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, those of you who have tuned in before, because a lot of it is the regular ones you hear from me regularly, which is get sleep. Get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Quit smoking is another one on the list. At least 30 minutes of moderate exercise every day of the week that you're willing to do it. They used to say 20 minutes 3 times a week, and now that's kind of gone out the window, and they say 30 minutes of moderate exercise as many days a week as you're willing to do it. Another one, limit the amount of alcohol you drink. Unfortunately, they found a link between excessive alcohol usage or chronic alcohol usage and cognitive decline and in chronic inflammation, which then led to the cognitive decline. Managing stress. They want you to manage stress by engaging in hobbies or activities that help you unwind. We've hit that subject multiple times on Wisdom Wednesday, and I'm sure it'll come up again in the future before the summer's over about managing stress levels. Maintain regular health checkups and follow your doctor's advice on reducing inflammation. There are a lot of ways these days to reduce inflammation. The first thing is having it measured to know whether, most people sort of know whether they've got chronic inflammation if they just feel bad all the time. But I even saw an article that we considered using today recently that some scientists are starting to call Alzheimer's disease diabetes type 3, which I had never heard before. They're linking it because diabetics have a lot of problems with inflammation, with chronic inflammation, and they're saying diabetics have trouble reducing that inflammation, and so they're linking cognitive decline to that chronic inflammation. So I sure will hear more about this. As I hear more about it, I'll pass it on to you. So let's segue into other things that you can do on the positive side. My health tip of the week is what kind of health-friendly foods, brain-friendly foods can you eat? And I try to keep it pretty simple here. Blueberries. Blueberries have a lot of antioxidants. They're readily available. Every grocery market in the produce section has blueberries galore right now because it's summertime. So the blueberries are in a lot of fruit cocktails and fruit salads and readily available. Throwing a couple of blueberries on a scoop of ice cream at least makes it a little bit more healthy and maybe counteract some of the sugar content. But Blueberries are really loaded with antioxidants, which get into your bloodstream and help neutralize the free radicals that are running around that a lot of people feel like are a large part of why people end up with cancer of different kinds. And it may have something to do with this cognitive decline thing too. Other good foods to eat: whole grains, oats and chickpeas. Those are examples of complex carbohydrates. The difference between complex carbohydrates and the regular carbohydrates that you hear about in fast foods and things like that are processed foods, the complex carbohydrates break down more slowly. So they're kind of like time-released antioxidants that are continually giving your brain some of the food that it needs. That they get broken down into glucose, which is blood sugar, which feeds your brain over a long, slow period of time. So it can be actually good for cognitive function. And then herbs, I guess I should say, like rosemary and mint are actually good in the summertime to put in iced tea. The mint particularly. Rosemary is good on a lot of summer dishes. You can look that up on Google and find many summer dishes that have rosemary in them. And they help increase the blood flow to the brain, improving concentration and memory. Concentration. Anyway, there's my health tips of 3 simple foods that you can add to your diet that might help you keep from going presidential. So I hope things have been good for you, and I hope you have a great week and stay cool out there. It is really starting to heat up now that the hurricane has moved on to the east. And so we'll see you next week for another version of Wisdom Wednesday.